Alright guys, what's going on? I'm going to go ahead and apologize right off the bat for the noise and echo in here. I wanted to do this in the garage here today. There's a bunch of stuff going in the house, but I wanted to go ahead and get this video out and I haven't seen anyone talk on this yet, but to me this is the most crucial part, and no one's talking about this with the new Toyota Supra. If you guys can't tell, and if you're new to the channel, my name's Ryan. If you can't tell behind me, I have a Mark IV, or the real Supra, as everyone's calling it as of lately here. I've had this now for about 8 years. It was a non-turbo, built from the ground up, etc., etc. If you want to learn more, go down below and check out everything. Before we get into this too, if you guys could do me a huge favor and give us either a like or a comment down below if you guys want to know anything. If you could also go check out the website for all my merchandise. Got new hats, shirts, and all that good stuff. So, besides all that, let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of this video and talk about what is the big difference between the new Supra and the old Supra. When I mean old, I always refer to the Mark IV, and I think that's what most people think of. But we're going to speak on here directly today is going to be the new Supra's motor, which is the BMW B58 versus the Toyota-built 2JZ. So first off, everyone's like, you know, the power. The new Supra has come out, and it's a big old 335 horsepower, which I get. It is a bit of a letdown. It isn't what we were expecting, but they did give us an inline six. They did make sure it was at least a 3-liter. It is dual overhead cam. It is a closed deck head. There's multiple things going on here that it has going for it. And there's a couple things I want to go ahead and start and get into here. The first thing people are talking about right now is power. The new Supra is a whopping 335 horsepower and 365 foot-pounds, and the car revs at 7,000 RPM, just slightly more than the old 2JZ, which was around 6,700. Now, right off the bat, it's very underwhelming. And let's give it for face value, guys. I don't care who you are. You expected a little bit more here. I mean, me included, I think everyone did. 335 horsepower is only 15 more than the Supra made 25 years ago, which made 320 horsepower. It's making roughly around 40, 45 more foot-pounds of torque than the old Supra did, which is very underwhelming up front. So right off there, the B58 versus the 2JZ, I'm giving it to the 2JZ right off there for the fact that it had more horsepower back then. It was more revolutionary back then. 320 horsepower is a lot, considering at the time the Mustang was 220. You know, now we're looking at Mustangs and they're making 400 plus from the factory, and the Supra's kind of this, not even close to competing with that. Even though that's not the market they're going for, but in my opinion, that's the first big thumbs down. But I'm not here to just talk bad on the motor, but I just kind of want to give you guys everything. Next up is going to be kind of going into the motor itself. You know, how is it built? What's different? What can be meshed together? So let's go ahead and start off with the block itself. The one thing that I'm super happy with, if any of you BMW guys know, in the old N55 motors, they were an open deck head. 2JZ has always been a closed deck head, which has made it possible, an absurd amount of power, because you'd have to worry about cracking the board like you did having an open deck head, kind of like the Focus RS does also. But the new B58 is a closed deck head also. If you guys can see right here, it's a closed deck design. Actually, the more you look at it, besides it being chain driven, very 2J-esque, the way the oil ports are, the way the coolant ports are. If you look too, it's actually an aluminized block on, actually, believe it or not, but they're using a new type of coating system instead of an insert to keep the block strong. Now, it's a new system. How well is it going to work? I don't really know, but it's a solid aluminum block. Instead of using a steel insert, they're using some type of special coating on the aluminum cylinder walls. A little skeptical right now, but if everything adds up, this could be the next 2JZ for us. This could be this great motor. If you guys look to, another big thing with the 2JZ was the fact that the 2JZ had a ton of oil ports. If you look at this, it doesn't have as many, but they're huge. So oil draining back to the pan is going to be easy with this motor. I'm not worried about that now. If you ever worked on an RB motor or some SR20 motors, they don't have enough oil draining ports. So the oil gets built up in the head and it causes some oil issues, and it can cause a lot more problems than it's worth. So the RBs and stuff from the Nissan end of it used to always have this issue. So it was always nice with the JZ motor that we never had to worry about it. And seeing now that the BMW motor has that is a big thumbs up for me, and that's a huge plus on my end of it. Now, I've heard of a couple people complaining at the fact that this is going to be a chain-driven motor. I personally am 100% okay with it, especially for people that don't want to work in their car's service as much. Chain-driven motors, if done right, are long-term service. What I mean by that, you can go 200,000 miles and not worry about it. Now, over time, a chain, just like anything else, will get worn, will get torn. It will get, I guess I call it, in my opinion, I call it lazy. It won't hold slack as well, and it does need to be replaced. Now, is it a little bit more time intensive when it happens? Absolutely, but that is farther down the road. Now, if you look at the block here also, they have everything set up in reverse. So the 2JZ had the crank, it had the dampener, it had the cam gears, and everything else up front of the motor. Same with the old N55 for BMW. BMW has now flipped everything and put all that in the back, right where the mounting point for the transmission is. My opinion, this is going to cause some heartache eventually down the road when you're trying to work and model the car. You're going to have to literally drop everything out of the car to work on it. This is going to be a little more time intensive and cost intensive if you don't work on your own vehicle. But do I see that as a bad thing? Yes and no. I understand where they're trying to go with it. They're trying to fix a few things they've had, but I personally am not a huge fan of that. Another thing that people would have seen before with the N55s were they had water pump failures, an electric water pump that always failed. On the B58, they've gone to a mechanical, just like the 2JZ. It's a little bit more clunky, but it works. That works, and you don't have to worry about it. It's not as clean or neat looking, but they work, and you don't have to worry about it as much. Now, you guys are wondering, we've talked about the block here. What about the internals of the block? Well, this is where it gets really, really good, and I'm super excited about this. It is a forged bottom end. The crank, the rods, the pistons, everything is forged in the new B58, just like the 2JZ, which is huge for us. This means that we can throw some serious power at this bad boy and maybe do the same thing the Supra was able to make around reliably, if we're going to be honest here, around 800 horsepower, around 600 to 650 foot-pounds, reliably, no issue straight out of the box. Now, I don't know how the trans is going to hold up, but speaking motor-wise, we had no problems, and I'm hoping this B58 is the same thing. It makes me super happy about this. Another thing that I actually like, it's higher compression. Now, the old 2JZ motor was a 9-to-1 compression. This is actually 11-to-1 compression, much higher, but allows better free revving. It allows you better throttle response, better turbo response. It's just better all around. A lot of 2JZ guys in general are actually going to a high compression motor build. So to me, that's actually a plus on plus on plus. I am super excited about that. So I give that 2 huge thumbs up. That to me is freaking awesome. Now let's go ahead, since we're already at the block and we've talked about the internals, let's talk about that one big thing that hangs off the side, the turbo. So with the turbo on this, it is a single turbo, unlike the 2JZ, which was a twin turbo system that used a sequential system to bring on the turbo. So one turbo came on first and then the second turbo came on, and it worked, but it was still very lazy. Even for back then, the car felt very lazy. It was probably cutting edge then, which actually I shouldn't say. It was very cutting edge then, but for today's standards, that doesn't work. So the new system, they're going with an internal header built into the head. They're using a twin scroll single turbo with the advantage of Vanos, which I'll be getting into that here. We'll be able to spool much faster and easier. I'm super excited about just having a single turbo on the car already, and I'm super excited in the fact that it is a twin scroll setup. So if you guys can see here from the pictures, you can see both the inlets coming off the head, and you'll see there are only 2 ports. Again, the head is designed to be an internal header, which I'll get into here. Goes straight to the turbo, spins it, and then goes out the exhaust. From what I can see here, it uses a Marmon or a V-band style flange for the exhaust off this. It is internally wastegated too, just like most factory turbos are. So it looks pretty unique and pretty awesome. Again, I give this another big 2 thumbs up. I think that's going to be a nice crucial key. I don't think it's going to give us that awesome noise that the 2JZ gets. Having individual cylinder banks like that, exhaust banks, I think gives it that awesome note on top of having a proper header. So I'm not sure if this is going to sound as good. Again, this is all hearsay right now. I've seen some of the rev videos, but when we get some aftermarket exhaust on these cars and really dig into it, I think we'll find out if it really works or not. About that, we've got the turbo, we've talked about the block. We haven't touched the head yet, which really can make or break a motor. I've been told before, you know, you can build a really loose block, but if you do something wrong in the head, you might as well throw it away. From looking at it here, guys, unlike the 2JZ, which was a flat tappet design, we are going back to a rocker. Now, it's a roller rocker style, so don't think of like an LS1 style rocker and stuff. This is a little bit more fluid, a little bit easier to work on. The 2JZ uses a flat tappet design where the cam actually came down, hit the top of the bucket, which then depressed the spring, which then pushed down this, the valve for the valve train. It's a very simple, basic system, which I always loved about the 2JZ over everything else. It makes it a little bit harder when you're setting up bigger cams or shimming things originally because you had to individually shim, but I really liked it because it was simple in the fact there's less moving parts. Now, working on this new motor, the B58, might be easier in the fact that you don't have to deal with shimming and stuff like we have to. You know, you throw the rockers on there, you're tightening them down to a certain spec, you're done. That's it. Super simple, so much easier to work with in that aspect, but there is more moving parts. So there, I'm gonna kind of go a mute point, or it's kind of like dead even. This has less moving parts. It's more complicated to set up though, because it can take multiple tries because of trying to shim it, where the BMW has more moving parts, but it's easier to set up. So when you go into bigger cams and changing things over, it's a lot easier to work on. Now, this new motor also has double vanos, which is a variable valve timing system. The old N55, I believe, just had the intake side, had a variable valve system. Now, on this is both intake and exhaust has vanos on it. I personally have no experience with vanos. It is a variable valve timing system that I don't know much about. I've heard some good, I've heard some very bad things about vanos, but I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt here. I personally love variable valve timing. It gives you great fuel economy, gives you the low end torque. There's so many more things you can get with it with just electronics. It's pretty awesome. A good tuner is really gonna be able to do this. Now, that talks about the motor as a whole. That's my opinion on it. Now, the one last thing I want to get to, just to speak on vanos and stuff, the one thing I'm looking forward to too is actually having a BMW ECU. If you're a Toyota guy like myself, the biggest issue we've had since ever till now, if you have a Lexus, whatever, those Bosch ECUs that we've had and Denso ECUs have always been locked. We've never been able to have a flash ECU or a chipped ECU like my MR2 Supra. If I want to make power, I have to get a standalone or have to send it out, and there's only a few companies in Japan that used to chip even the MR2 or Supra. It was just too complicated and it wasn't worth it. Unlike Hondas and Nissan, which was super easy to modify, having a BMW ECU is going to open us up to open ROM and easy CAN bus systems that we can flash and just go out with. The only car I can think of from Toyota right now that has been broken, and it took them even a while yet, was the FRS, and that's using a Subaru motor. So to me, that's not really the same thing. So for me, this is going to be a BMW B58 in this new Supra. Is it the same thing as the Mark IV? No. Do I want it to be the same thing as the Mark IV? No. I want a new car. I want something different. Is the BMW part of it what I wanted? Absolutely not. But that being said, it is Toyota. Toyota makes very good decisions. They're the most profitable car company in the entire world for a reason. They sell more cars, they make more money than any other car company out there today. I would like to think Mr. Toyoda himself wouldn't make a poor decision like this. I know people talk so much, better wording here, crap on the FRS, but yet sales numbers show otherwise. The car sells like hotcakes. So guys, let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. This is some of the information I have for you right now. If there's any questions, concerns that you may have, please let me know down below. Again, guys, if you do me a big favor, go check out the Facebook, Instagram, go check out the website. Thank you guys very much. And I'm gonna go drink some more beer. Peace! There goes a sight from my soul.